Mr. President, before we get into the staggering estimates of casualties and injuries from today's events, we at Group 5 feel that it is imperative that everyone is made aware that the perpetrators have already identified themselves publicly. Their name is Al Qaeda, and they are an anti American, anti Western, and anti Judeo Christian group of Muslims committed to the destruction of the United States. They are trained in the deserted corners of Afghanistan, Yemen, and various other remote countries by leaders such as Osama bin Laden, Abu Hafs al-Masri, and Saif al-Adil, just to name a few. This story is one of many characters, but our goal here today is to provide you with a brief background on why these atrocities were carried out and who must be held accountable. All funds used to start al-Qaeda were taken by Osama bin Laden from his family's construction company, the Saudi bin Laden Group. His father was the most famous construction tycoon Mohammed bin Laden. Virtually all of al-Qaeda's funding has come from the enormous wealth created by Mohammed and many of his sons who currently work for the company. Osama's involvement with his father's companies was relatively short-lived, and he has no real wealth of his own. Very recently, after the banishment of Osama from his homeland in Saudi Arabia, many of his brothers and family members have closed many financial gateways for him. The company has no relationship with any terrorist events. Al-Qaeda officially began in 1988 in a cave that bin Laden named the Lion's Den on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. It is here where bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, and Saeed Imam, also known as Dr. Fadl, began talks of creating a group of obedient jihadists to carry out their holy struggle even after the Soviets were gone from Afghanistan. The name of this group will be called Al-Qaeda, which means the base. A year later, bin Laden joined together with the 5 leaders of the other major jihadi organizations, Al-Jihad, the Islamic Group, Humayat ul-Ulema, and Harakat al-Jihad. In January of 1998, Ayman al-Zawahiri began to author a draft of formal declaration that would unite all the different mujahideen groups that had gathered in Afghanistan under one single banner. This alliance pledged to each other and to the world to unite together to kill the Americans and their allies, civilian and military, as it is an individual duty for every Muslim who can do it in any country where it is possible. Osama returned to his hometown of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, a year later, and was welcomed as the Mujahideen hero who liberated Afghanistan from the evil communist Soviet Union. He was concerned about the possible conflicts with the neighboring dictator in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, as well as the Marxist government in Yemen. He expressed these concerns with the Saudi royal family, but warned that the presence of Christian American soldiers on the land of Saudi kingdom was a much more dangerous prospect than the presence of a neighboring tyrant. He begged his government not to call on the United States, but due to the strength of our oil partnership, we were asked to intercede. Our involvement in the Iraq War and our continued presence in the region enraged bin Laden, and this would cause him to move his family to Khartoum, Sudan in 1992. This is the main reason why bin Laden and the other leaders of Islamic jihadist group hate the United States. Until now, bin Laden and the Mujahideen groups were warriors against godless communism, and America came to their aid. Now, with America and the United Nations occupying more and more land in the Middle East, bin Laden's attention has shifted from the threat of communism to the threat of westernization and Christianity, citing Islamic struggles dating back to the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries. Anti-Americanism has now become the new methodology for the jihadists. The 90s became a decade devoted to the infiltration of America by Al-Qaeda, the Islamic group, Al-Jihad, and many similar organizations. It is throughout this time period that the jihadi strategists began to travel to and from America into countries like Afghanistan, Sudan, and Yemen, planning terror cells across the nation. Many FBI and counterterrorism government officials have been following this development for many years, but after years of frustrating attempts to draw major attention to their just concerns, many of these men have resigned and continued their research on their own. 2 of these men are former National Coordinator for Counterterrorism in the White House, Richard A. Clarke, and former Chief of Counterterrorism for the FBI, John O'Neill. O'Neill is currently missing, and as he was on duty at his new job working for security in the North Tower of the World Trade Center. These men have been working tirelessly for several years to bring down Osama bin Laden, but due to his family's near royal status and this country's love affair with Saudi Arabia, attempts for his capture and arrest have been historically denied. The U.S. received many warnings from several people. In April 2001, Ahmed Shah Massoud spoke to the European Parliament in Strasbourg, France, about the danger that al-Qaeda was to the world. The Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak also warned the U.S. about terrorism. Even the Taliban Foreign Minister Waqil Ahmed Mutawallaki told American Consul General in Peshawar and the United Nations in Kabul about al-Qaeda's plan to attack the U.S. The 9/11 report. There were 4 hijacked planes on September 11, 2001, with a total of 19 hijackers. American Airlines Flight 11 was bound for Los Angeles and departed at 7:59 a.m. with 9 flight attendants and 81 passengers, including the 5 hijackers: Mohammed Atta, Abdulaziz al-Omari, Satam al-Sukami, Wael al-Shari, and Walid al-Shari. At 8:14 a.m., the plane was hijacked and the passengers and flight attendants were instructed to go to the back of the plane with mace and threats of a bomb. At 8:46 a.m., Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. United Airlines Flight 175 was also bound for Los Angeles and departed at 8:14 a.m. with 7 flight attendants and 56 passengers, including 5 hijackers: Shehai Fayez Bani Hamad, Mohand al-Shari, Ahmed al-Ghamdi, and Hamza al-Ghamdi. At 8:42 to 8:46 a.m., the plane was hijacked and the passengers and flight attendants instructed to go back of the plane with mace and threats of a bomb. At 9:03 a.m., Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. American Airlines Flight 77 was bound for Los Angeles and departed at 8:20 a.m. with 4 flight attendants and 58 passengers, including the 5 hijackers: Khalid al-Midhar, Mahed Moked, Hani Hanjar, Nawaf al-Hamzi, and Salid al-Hamzi. At 8:51 to 8:54 a.m., the plane was hijacked with similar threats as the 2 previous hijackings, and the same procedures of the passengers were instructed to go to the back of the plane. At 9:37 a.m., Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon. United Airlines Flight 93 was bound for San Francisco and departed at 8:42 a.m. with 5 flight attendants and 37 passengers, including the 4 hijackers Saeed al-Ghamdi, Ahmed al-Nami, Ahmad al-Hansnawi, and Zia Jarrah. At 9:28 a.m., the plane was hijacked. At 9:57, the passengers revolted and started attacking the hijackers, which changed the hijackers' plans and destinations. At 10:03 a.m., Flight 93 crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, into an open field. The 4 attacks happened at 8:46, 9:03, 9:37, and 10:03 a.m. on Tuesday, September 11, 2001. They were planned by the terrorist organizations that have pledged allegiance to al-Qaeda and were executed by 19 of their suicide bombers. There are currently 3,000 people dead and counting, and at least another 6,000 are injured. This was the work of Osama bin Laden.